Hello, everybody. It's Dr. Rick dropping in on you. It is Wealth Building Wednesday. I hope everybody is getting their year off to a great start. This is sort of a new thing for me in the way that I'm structuring things to protect myself, my health, both physically, mentally, emotionally, and to be more effective and to accomplish more than I have over the last several years. I think with everything that I look at and where I've been, I am grateful to have done what I've done. This is Wealth Building Wednesday, so I don't want to take too long getting into this, but I definitely want to invite you guys into Legacy Wealth. Legacy Wealth Academy is a place where we're going to use a 6-month program, an intensive 6 months program. It's jam-packed with courses designed to teach principles, financial awareness, financial literacy. I mean, everything that's associated with literally building wealth. And when you say building, we're talking brick by brick building. This is not a get rich quick scheme. This isn't about some fast track to anything. This is about the principles you need to make sure that each subsequent generation in your family is doing better and more secure financially. And so I want people to learn this, but also this course will also come with a certification as a consultant. You will have enough knowledge to serve as a financial consultant. No, not a financial manager, not a financial advisor, not a stockbroker. You're not licensed, but you will know, trust me. You'll be able to have an educated conversation with anyone on finance, on money movement, on market behavior, and so much more. And the link is in the description box. It's something I'm extremely excited about. Also, you're going to get a lifetime membership into the Epic Realm community of high achievers. I cannot stress this enough. One of the things we need training in, and one of the things they are not providing as a part of the school system in educating our children, is financial awareness. And there's a reason for that. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves. And when I tell you there's so much that you can't find in mainstream in this world that we're going to be teaching, that's so valuable to what it is we want to do in our lives. And we wonder why we always keep hitting hiccups. There's money generation. We talk about that on Money Monday. This is about what you do with it, how you manage it, how you think about it. And that matters too. And so we're going to talk about the 4 things that every major investor is going to look at: protecting against loss over looking at what's to gain. So protecting against loss is more important than what is to gain. Number 2, asymmetric risk reward. Asymmetric risk reward is finding opportunities to invest where there's little compared to how much is being made. Completely different mindset and concept than what most people are told about investing. The next one is minimizing tax liability. The 4th one is diversifying your investments across assets to hedge against loss. There are some of the other things we're going to talk about is the 401k myth. We're going to talk about the importance of what we're actually going to talk about today, which is hedging against the downside. The downside to any investment. There's the upside, you win. There's the downside when you lose. What you want to do is hedge against the downside as much as possible. That's what great investors do. We're going to talk about how to do that. We're going to talk about assets versus liabilities. One of the biggest misunderstandings and failures of understanding that cost us so much is we don't know the difference between a liability and an asset. And we tend to be over invested in consumerism. Compound growth is another thing that we are going to talk a lot about, not only in this course, but over the course of dealing with Wealth Building Wednesday. It's so important. It's one of the most underused mechanisms in wealth building, and it has such great upside and very little downside. It hedges itself. It's an unbelievable thing. We're going to talk about all of that stuff. But today I want to talk about hedging against the downside. I'm going to read you 2 quotes from 2 people that are heavy in the game and have a proven track record. The first one says, an investment operation is one which, upon thorough analysis, promises safety of principal and an adequate return. Operations not meeting these requirements are speculative. We're going to go back over that in a second. The second one is, and that's by Benjamin Graham, who wrote The Intelligent Investor. The second one is superficially, I think it looks like entrepreneurs have a high tolerance for risk, but one of the most important phrases in my life is protect the downside. And that's Richard Branson, who did exactly that when he started Virgin Airlines. And I'm going to tell you about that story. But let's go back and look at what Benjamin Graham said. He said, an investment operation is one which, upon thorough analysis, promise safety of principal and adequate return. Operations not meeting these requirements are speculative. So much of what's done in investment is speculative. So much of what is done is speculating, and a lot of what is done is guessing. You can talk to the major hitters, the David Swansons, the Ray Dalios, the Warren Buffetts, Jack Bogle, and so many of these people who are the masters of investing, multi-billionaires that built their empires on investment. And they will tell you that you can't predict the market. Every last one of them. So then what are you doing? You're not trying to predict the market. You are building analysis and learning about assets. Assets perform. Assets perform despite the market. You learn which assets perform despite the market. You invest in those and you hold those. Whenever you find somebody that's actively trading, you're looking at somebody that's going to have some highs and lows. And that's going to be the course of what's going on. I'm up, I'm up, I'm up, I'm up, I'm down, I'm down, I'm up, I'm up. I lose, I win, I'm up, I'm up. And what you learn is as you get older, you get mature, you learn, you stop playing the game short term and you start investing and looking long term. So the thing is, do you ever get out of a situation where you don't stand to lose? No, but what you can do is create a portfolio that hedges against loss within the totality of your investments. The simple explanation of way of explaining that, say you have 10 investments across assets, meaning none of them are invested in the same industry, same commodity, same whatever. What happens is when you have done your homework, when you have understood and developed an understanding about each one of these assets, you know how they're going to perform. You trust that over time they're going to perform well. Well, you also know that there are going to be times when every industry goes through difficulty, everything, and then there are going to be global times when things are just not going well, regardless of what you've got going on. But what you want a diversity. Why? Because if I've got 10 investments, the chance of all 10 of those having horrible months, horrible years at the same identical time isn't likely if I've done my homework. If I've done my homework, that means that what happens if I'm especially when I'm doing it through asymmetric risk reward, meaning that I'm investing a little to make a lot. And there are investments. The simple way to look at asymmetric risk reward is instead of investing $10 to get $2, I'm investing $2 to get $10. That's asymmetric risk reward. In other words, find things that have extremely high returns. And that's an exaggerated example, but you get the idea. Well, if I'm doing asymmetric risk reward, then that means that I may have $100 across assets. 4 can fail, but if I've done asymmetric risk reward and 6 win, I've won. And that is how you hedge against that. Now, look at David Branson. He is superficially, I think it looks like entrepreneurs have a high tolerance for risk. But one of the most important phrases in my life is protect the downside. And I can tell you, when you don't protect the downside, you eat it. I can tell you that personally, when you don't protect the downside, when all you see is the upside, and you don't protect the downside, and the downside hits, it can literally wipe you out. It can definitely have you in a situation where you're fighting to recover. And so how did David Branson protect against the downside? He decided that he was brilliant enough in his marketing, in his branding, and how he moved in 1984 that he could compete with British Airlines, who he was basically competing against when he first started Virgin Airlines. And this is what he did. He decided he could do it, but what he didn't want to do is take a heavy hit on a loss. So he brought, I think, 5 or 6 jets. I forgot the price, but it was in the millions. And he bought 5 or 6 jets. But what he did is he negotiated a contract that if in 6 months to a year, something like that, that things didn't work out, he could literally return them and get his money back. So he got the the place where he bought the jets to also believe in what he was doing and take a risk with him and say, okay, we're going to basically uh, consign these jets to you for a certain time. And if things work out, the purchase is final. If not, we'll give you your money back. So what did he do? He hedged against the downside. He hedged against loss. And there's so many different ways you can do that. One of the things I talk to you about a lot is the need to build multiple streams of income, because then you're hedging against loss of your primary source of income. Hedging is so important, and it's one of the things that most people don't think about. What you're doing is saying, okay, what am I going to do that's going to minimize the loss if this doesn't work? And the thing is, if you're investing, you want as little speculation as possible, but an investment is a risk. It's saying, I'm going to put something in here, and based off of what I've been able to look at, based off of what I've been able to evaluate, based off of my analysis, there's a high probability it's going to work. But there are just certain things in a global market or even in a local market that you cannot predict will happen. You can't predict somebody getting assassinated, which will shift a global economy. You cannot predict a bad harvest because of some unforeseen natural disaster. And that's going to impact the food market, and on and on and on. There are just certain things that each market is going to be impacted by that can't be predicted. Now, there are the predictables. There are the things that you can speculate and say more than likely. Also, there are patterns. If you look at the stock market over the last 100+ years, it has a pattern of about every 4 or 5 years correcting itself. The last couple have been a little bit elongated, and we've seen intensified corrections. The longer it takes to correct itself, the more intense the correction. The thing is, okay, so if it's on the upswing and there's a bubble building and it needs to correct itself, the downswing is normally known as a bear market and it's going down. If it goes down a certain number of percentage points, it stops being a downturn. They start talking about crisis. If it goes too far down below that, they start talking about crash. All they're saying is the market is overcorrecting, and they're trying to find ways in every asset to manage and get through that. And how companies manage this and how consumers respond to it is going to determine how long it takes for the market to balance back out. Now, what happens is anytime the market overcorrects, the longer it takes to correct itself, say if it goes on the downside, think stocks are dropping and everybody's panicking. And like Ray Dalio said, in an interview once, the stock market is the only place where things go on sale and people panic. That's what crisis investors sit around and wait for, is for down times when stocks drop and significantly and people panic and want to sell. They're sitting there to buy it because they know what's going to happen, that eventually the market is going to correct itself, the stock prices are going to go back up, and they're going to automatically increase their wealth. And it doesn't take long, relatively speaking, to do that. Those with the capital to do that sit by. And I learned that just through actually having a simple question. I questioned everything. When I was first trying to learn the stock market, my simple question was, okay, the market is in a downturn. Stocks are dropping. And this was my initial question. It's a stupid question now, but it wasn't stupid to me then because I didn't know. I'm like, okay, if the prices are dropping and everybody's selling, who's the dumbass buying? Actually, it's the smart person buying, because that person is actually buying stock at a discounted price. Because what? Stocks on companies that perform consistently are going to climb. They know it's going to return, it's going to recover. Coke's been around forever. McDonald's been around forever. All these companies that have been through numerous cycles of what you want to call recessions, crashes, crises, whatever, have recovered. Well, we know that happens. So it's going to correct itself. The market does it every 4 or 5 years. And the longer it takes, the more intense the correction, one way or the other. But so say for instance, you have a long downtime. When the market does correct, you're going to have some great years. We saw that with the recession that hit when the market collapsed in 2007, 2008. We've had a long time where things were kind of good. And so now we're having to deal with the corrections on that. And it's just a bunch of different things that you get. We teach that in Legacy Wealth. But what you have to do is be able to hedge against the downside. And you have to be able to research, how can I hedge? How can I protect myself against what happens if it doesn't work? And one way of doing that is diversity. Diversify. He hedged himself within the deal, which is a great thing. He hedged himself within the deal. And he did that by simply saying, hey, look, I need you to be willing to give me my money back if this doesn't work. And he was able to negotiate that. How, I don't know, but that's the art of the deal as well. Being able to get into situations that benefit you and the other person, but get them to buy into it as well. The one thing that I probably would want to iterate here, more than anything, people want to sell the positive, and that's good. One thing I can tell you is there's always a negative side to anything you're doing. There's always a chance that things won't go the way that you want them to go. There's always a chance that you're going to look up and you say, man, how did I get here? It's part of life. Don't let that stop you. Don't let that hiccup, that punch in the gut, that thing that you go, man, what am I going to do? Because the thing is, if you're still breathing, you're still in the fight. If you still have your sense of thinking and thought, you can come out of this. You've got to be willing to stand up, dust yourself off, and figure it out. I can't tell you anybody that I've studied, anybody that I've had the blessing of interviewing when doing my research. When I just re-released the revised version of my 25th book, which is the War on Black Wealth, Breaking the Code of Generational Wealth. I think that link is in the description box as well. Look, the one thing I can tell you is I didn't find anybody that hadn't taken losses. Not one. The ones that I couldn't interview, I read extensively on. From Buffett to Dalio to Swenson to Bogle, and on down the line. And I haven't been able to find one who didn't take losses, who didn't take hits. And I found a bunch, the majority, who took hits that put them in bankruptcy, and they had to come back out, rebuild, and start over. The thing is, once you learn how to do it, you can rebuild. Once you understand how things work, you're never at a loss. Once you develop the knowledge of money, you're never broke. You may be cash strapped, and people don't get the understanding of that. Cash strapped and broke is not the same thing. Having cash flow issues and being broke is not the same thing. Broke is a value. You're broke when there's no assets. You're broke when there's nothing that you have or can do, and you don't have an option. I tell people all the time, if you've got a mind and you're willing to unleash it, you're not broke. You just don't have cash yet. That's the beautiful thing about this world. That's the beautiful thing about the internet. That's why, again, I'm pushing. If you don't have multiple streams of income, you need to have an income stream, multiple income streams, and the internet offers that opportunity. Again, not a get rich quick thing. This is go out there, make some money, create some money, have a plan of what you're to what am I allocating to, what allocating to, bills? What am I allocating to discretionary spending? What am I allocating to investments? You should have a minimum of 20% of your income allocated towards investments, growing what you have created, a minimum of 20%. Don't tell me what you can't do, because it can be done. I guarantee there's at least 20% of things you're spending money on that you don't absolutely have to have. Sometimes you've got to put your wants to the side so that you can build something bigger, something better, something stronger. And that's also a mindset that we need to be passing on to our children. We need to be teaching them the importance of growing at a faster rate than their spending. You should have an accumulating thing going on. And if you don't, then your spending shouldn't be discretionary. Your spending should be on building. Your spending should be on growing and creating the capacity. That's a part of it too. It's called investing in yourself. And those are the things that we have to learn about building wealth, is that it's not about what's not out there. It's about what you're willing to go out and find, and what you're willing to go out and create. How much of yourself are you willing to set aside for a long-term goal? How much are you willing? Because see, we like presenting. We like presenting. Look what I have. Look what I've done. Look at all this. I was reading a post that one of my friends and colleagues, Michael Blanchard, posted, that I posted a while ago, but he posted it, and it basically was me saying that, me recalling a conversation where someone asked me, how would I like to be remembered? How would I like to be judged at the end of my life, was the question, actually. And I said, I want to be judged. If you must judge me by my failures. Judge me by how I responded to the most adverse times in my life. When I got knocked down, did I get back up? Did I quit? Did I fold? Did I just throw up my hands and say, I can't? Or did I stand up, dust myself off, and go back in with a commitment to finish what I started? Did I commit to going the distance? Don't judge me on the accomplishments and the things I've accumulated. I've had an unbelievable life. I have been blessed. But I've had some difficult moments, and I think I'm blessed more, not by the things I can look back and say, I remember when. See, those things go, those beautiful, shiny things, the cars, the square footage, all that stuff can come and go. What do I have inside of me that can't be taken from me? The fact that I stood, the fact that I didn't give up, the fact that I refused to quit. Judge me on that, because at the end of the day, if I consistently be that person, I will accumulate things, but they won't define me. I'll have the plaques on the wall, but that won't be the measure of my manhood. I'll have the pats on the back, but that won't be what validates me. What will validate me is that at the moments that a bunch of people will just say, it ain't worth it, I ain't going, I can't deal with this, I stood. In my hardest and most darkest moments, in the time when the pain was intense, I didn't quit. When people were saying, man, I don't think it's going to work, I kept pressing. When the funding wasn't there, but the need was, I didn't turn around and let go. I kept pushing. And most importantly, I want to be judged by, at the time when I was going through the most myself, I was still available to those in need. That's a legacy. That's also a part of wealth. Your legacy is bigger than what's in your bank account or on your portfolio, in your asset folder. Your legacy is, what did you stand for? When life was kicking you, how did you respond? That's going to be what tells the story at the end. I want to be judged by my failures, by how I responded to them. You know, yeah, if you want to look at the things that I've done over the course of my life, I've done more than the average person will. And that's okay, and that's fine. But I loved hard. I gave so much of myself, sometimes I had to pull back just to stay afloat. But the thing that I'm most proud of is I refused to quit. I refused to turn around. I trusted my faith above circumstances. And if anybody's out there going through it right now, I want to leave you with that. You're going to have situations, and sometimes they're long standing. It seems like it's never going to end. Don't you quit. You're going to have situations where you look up and going, how long? Don't quit. You're going to have times when it seems everybody around you is sitting there literally waiting on you to fall, waiting on you to fail, so they can say, see there, she wasn't all that. He wasn't all that. Don't buy into it. No matter what happens, no matter what goes on, don't you quit. As long as you're breathing, you're in this fight. Dust yourself off. Square your shoulders. Hold your head up. Say, I'm built for this. I don't care how much money you've lost. I don't care how many times you failed in business. I don't care what you've gone through. I don't care what people are telling you they won't pay you. What I'm telling you is invest in yourself. Grow your knowledge, because you don't get what you want in this life. You get who you are. You get what you become. See, if I want to do something and have something, I have to become the person that can do it. If I want to be a prolific writer, I had to learn how to write. I learned that by not only practicing my writing, but reading. I read 100 books plus a year. People say that's impossible. No, it's not. It's impossible because you've made up in your mind you're not going to give it the commitment. You're not going to give it the priority. You're not going to train yourself on how to read at a rate that you can accomplish it. It hasn't become important enough to you to do it. Same thing with wealth. Man, there's no way I'm going to come from that. Man, you know how much? I got 50 cents in my bank account right now, and I've got $2,000 worth of bills. You can come out of it. You're cash strapped. I get it. Trust me, I get it. It's not the end of the story. You don't lay down. You don't quit. You sit down and you figure it out. Research what other cash strapped people have done. Research ways to generate. Another reason why you should be generating money online. It's not going to make you rich initially unless some kind of way you come across the right. There's the lightning in the pail, where you just have the right thing at the right time. It goes viral. You look up and you're a millionaire. That's not how 99% of millionaires do it. They do it brick by brick. Something comes along, knocks the whole damn wall down. Brick by brick. Somebody comes along, steals 2 bricks. Brick by brick. What happens is, over time, you get the wall built. Then after you build the wall, you start walling off and building rooms and spaces. And before you know it, you've got this complex dynamic that you've built because you did not quit. Don't you dare give up on your vision. You need to consult your vision. You need to go back to your childhood and ask yourself what you promised yourself you would do in life. Because I guarantee you've been talked out of it, you've been knocked out of it, you've been pushed out of it, you've been sucked out of it. You just sit up and said, man, this is my lot in life, where I'm at right now. This is about as good as it's going to get. No, it's not. It's going to get as good as you make it. The problem is, what you're trying to accomplish is not something that you can manifest through magic. It's a manifestation through process. You can build wealth. You can pass down something more than you received. And you can pass down the knowledge of how to do it so that they never have to worry about it again. But it starts with you changing your approach, changing your thinking, changing how you view money, changing how you handle money, changing and understanding the difference between what's a liability and what's an asset. Being willing to forego some of the luxuries and things that everybody's flashing around and putting in everybody's face to prove they made it, but struggling to keep it. If you got to struggle to keep it, it's not what you need right now. Outside a roof over your head and a reasonably dependable means of getting around and the ability to eat, everything else is negotiable. And you've got to think that way because you're building something. And in order to build something, you've got to put something in. This is one of those times where you're going to see a lot of people. And this isn't me talking from a place of judgment. This is me talking from a place of concern. This is a time where you can see a lot of people who are going to get sizable refunds because of tax credits and a bunch of other things. And you're going to see them investing wholly in things that are going to depreciate almost immediately and won't likely be even there the next year because that's just how the cycle goes. This is a pattern that's been going on for years. I'm going to get $8,000. I'm going to go out and put it on a 10-year-old luxury vehicle. And I'm going to ride it and it's going to fall apart on me, or I'm going to run out of money and not be able to afford to pay the notes and they're going to come take it from me. And then I'm going to go back to the same damn dealership again next January, next February when I get my money, and I'm going to do it again. They literally are making a killing off me because they're buying a car, they're selling me a car that they're going to get to sell at least once again. Get your head in the mindset of the frame of pay cash for something dependable, something easy to fix that you can take to your neighborhood mechanic and work out a deal with them. This is what, and if you get a relationship with them, they'll work with you, and you're in a better situation. You get you something, man. And even if it's for a year or two, you've got something you're not paying notes on. And you don't have to worry about that element. Now, that money you would have been spending on notes can be invested in you, in your vision, in your dream, in your idea. We've got to get out of this consumer mindset. Consumerism and wealth don't go together. And he said, well, extremely wealthy people, they're buying yachts and all this stuff like that. Well, you're not looking at the hedging of the downside because you don't get the picture on their lot. Yeah. How much time do you think the average millionaire spends on their yacht? Ultra millionaire, because the person that's worth 1.5 more than likely doesn't have a yacht. So you're talking about ultra wealthy people with yachts. How much time do you think they spend on their yacht a month? Some of them are not going to be on their yachts for weeks, months at a time. Do you realize they're leasing that yacht out? They're renting it out by the day for day cruises. The yacht pays for itself. They're writing out certain things if they treat it as, certain write-offs in business and things of that nature. They're playing a game that you can't understand, and you're thinking they're just out there throwing money around. Every expenditure for the wealthy has purpose behind it. You'll be surprised at how many millionaires will grovel over $10 if they feel somebody screwed it out of them, because every dollar, every cent matters. And we need to start treating ourselves like that. Every second matters. Every minute matters. Every dollar matters. Don't give up. I can personally attest that sometimes it's just hard and it seems like nothing is working. But I can tell you, I've been in the game long enough that I can tell you, if you stay in the fight, you're going to come out. But you got to have a plan. You got to have a strategy. You got to be willing to stay in it. A lot of people lose because they quit. Others lose because they're just swinging at the air. They're swinging out of desperation. They're in survival mode. Step out of that and sit up and come up with a plan. Work that plan. Adjust that plan. Do what you got to do, but keep going. On that note, look, I'm gonna get out here. Like I said, I hope that you guys will take the advantage of this training at the Legacy Wealth Academy. I also hope that you would take advantage of the 7-day online business launch. It's a great way to get started in generating some online revenue. I designed this course as a self-paced course a while ago, and it's been doing great in that area. But what I want to do is actually go online. I'm going online Friday morning, a couple of days from now. Friday morning, I'm going online, and I'm actually going to teach this course step by step. It's meant for you to buy and do it yourself, but I'm going to teach them and show you how you go from point A to point Z in setting up an online enterprise. You don't need a product. You don't need a service. If you got one, great. But if you don't need it, there are things and ways out there that you can do this and you can get started. Again, this isn't a get rich quick thing. This isn't, I'm gonna go out there and make $1 million. This isn't even gonna go out there and make $1,000 the first week. Can it happen? Absolutely, it can happen. Depending on what you choose, how you do it, what you're willing to put off into it is in the way of marketing. You can go from free marketing all the way up to paid advertising and everything in between to drive traffic. Traffic is the most precious thing you can have in an online business. You have to have traffic in order to generate revenue. Now, with that being said, the links to those opportunities are in there. But what I can tell you is you need to start your journey now. You're never too old. Obviously, the older you are, the more aggressive you're going to have to be to reach your goal. If you start out at 18 and your goal is $1 million, by 40, you're going to have a lot easier path than someone who's starting at 50 and their goal is $1 million and they want to reach it by 60. So I want to challenge you. I want you to get out there. I want you to do good. I hope that I was able to help you in this. I hope that you were able to take something from this. But whatever you do, you have to be willing to go the distance. You have to be willing to invest in yourself. I think it was Jim Rohn that said, the winners in this world are those who invest in themselves and their education. I cannot stress that enough. Um, Sitting up hoping is not a plan nor a strategy. Wishing is not a plan nor a strategy. You got to have something that makes sense on paper that you can put together. Now, you can push beyond it, you can push around it, you can work it, but you got to have something that guides your movement every day. On that note, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have an unbelievable remainder of your day. Thank you for stopping by. You have been awesome. Um, and thank you. Man, I miss some of these um, some of these comments. I was on a whole nother page. I do apologize. Hey, little sis, I see my little sister on here. I hope she's still on here. Hey, Donica. But anyway, look, it's a process. It's about learning. It's about doing something. Invest in yourself. I can't tell you that enough. Invest in yourself. Whatever it is, read a book, sign up for a class, hire a mentor. Whatever you do, there's somebody out there that can expedite your path to what it is you're trying to do. Most of us aren't trained to do that. There's a reason why life coaching, performance psychology, things that are in my industry are booming right now. This industry is booming. You want to know why it works? Now there are a bunch of snake oil salesmen that don't do anything, but there are people out there who have invested years in knowing something so they can teach it to you. And we haven't been, as a people, trained to go out and invest in ourselves that way. We don't want to pay, and it's actually another way that we are getting left further and further behind, because they will. And tap into the assets that are in front of you. That's all I can say. On that note, look, as I always say, I live my life on full so that I leave this place on E. The class, there are two classes. Donica's asking how much are the classes. The class to start an online business is actually less than $400. The one that I'm doing Friday, it's less than $400. And I'm actually giving away two $450 sessions with me after the fact so that we can go over everything we went over, doing a Q&A in it and everything else. So it was meant to be a step-by-step self-paced thing. I wasn't supposed to be involved in it. You're supposed to buy it and do it. But I'm actually going to be on answering questions, teaching the course, telling you why you should do what step 3 says do, why you do this, how this, all this stuff. I'm going to do this. And it's not going to be no additional charge. Plus, I'm going to give you 2 free sessions worth $450 a piece as a follow-up. That's that session. The other course is $997. The 6 months course that's going to, now this course is intense. And if you go into the description box and read, it tells you everything that you're going to learn over this course. You will be trained in every possible aspect and element of wealth building. And you're going to learn a lot about why, no matter how much we've been making, we only have XYZ, because what we make in salary versus what we build and grow in investment and wealth aren't the same thing. Being rich and being wealthy isn't the same thing. You're going to learn that there's a guy, black man who's retired, that worked as a parking lot attendant his entire career, never made more than $12 an hour or $18,000, something like that a year, who happened to work in the financial district and just would hit up these financial advisors on tips as they were coming out. And they would just, pine by because he was nice and he had been there forever. They would just share stuff with him and he was using it. He retired with a net worth of almost $700,000. But what it doesn't tell you is he paid for his children's college. They have no student loan debt. He paid for his home. He doesn't have a mortgage. He has all this in the life. And this was a while ago. So they've grown that since then. And then there's Theodore Johnson. And then I'm done. Theodore Johnson, a much older example, but Theodore Johnson, he's passed away. But he used to work for UPS way back in the day, and way back in the day. And he, at the top of his career at UPS, made $14,000 a year. And he had someone he knew who was, in his mindset, wealthy. And he asked him, man, I want to be wealthy like you. What? And he said, you need to take 20% of your income and you need to invest it in XYZ. And he said, you need to do this every time you get paid. And he said, I can't afford that. I only make XYZ. He said, you can't afford not to. That thing right there, when I read this story, just kept hitting me. You can't afford not to. You can't afford not to. You can't afford not to. And anyway, he did it. And he never left UPS. This is the crazy thing. He never left UPS. He kept working. When he retired at 62, he was worth $72 million. He kept investing. At age 90, he gave, I want to say, half of it, whatever he was worth at the time, which was more than the 72 million. He gave half of it to charity at age 90. And I guess he left the rest to family members or whoever. So it can be done. The one thing I'll tell everybody, and this is my gift to anybody I can talk to who says they want to build wealth, invest in an index. Indexing is compound growth. The S&P 500, anything that mirrors the S&P 500, that has longevity enough for you to study their performance, definitely do something with that. You got to do something with that. That's compound growth. We're used to compound debt, the opposite. We've got to get out of that mindset. So on that note, look, I'm gonna get ready to get out of here. I hope you guys really got something out of this. It's always a blessing for me to share as I work and grow and build. And I'm in an intensified building process where I'm catching all kind of friction. But it's a blessed place to be in, because I could be sitting up with no opportunity to scale out, no opportunity to grow, no opportunity to build, no opportunity to fight to secure capital. None of that. I could be sitting up going, man, what am I going to do next? I know what I'm going to do next. Just have to follow through and do it. It's a blessed place to be, but it's challenging. And that's what people need to understand. The things you want in life come with challenge. Will Smith once said that he believed God put everything worth having on the other side of fear. I agree. A bunch of what you're going to need to do, it's going to go on the other side of the fear of failure, the fear of not getting a return, the fear of what other people think, all these things. But it's also on the other side of discomfort, on the other side of pain. That's going to be some moments that it's going to be excruciating, because you are developing and growing. The best growth I've received in the gym, whether as a youth, as an athlete, as an adult in my 30s, as a professional athlete, as someone in my 50s who has lost 50 plus pounds over the last year or so. And the most precious gains were very uncomfortable and at sometimes painful. The burn, the push, the fight. It's like that in any area in life. You want it, you're going to have to be willing to put in the work to have it. You're going to have to be willing to go in and take the risk. You're going to have to be willing to go in and say, you know what? I'm walking out with something. And that's the thing I want to challenge you to do. Walk out of today with something. And that's the thing I do. I know I keep talking, but because I want to help somebody. I walk out of every day, no matter what my day was like. I walk out with something. I walk out winning. Why? Because I made up in my life that I'm never going to end the day not having grown. Say, well, how can you guarantee? I control what I consume. While everybody's out having fun and doing it, and don't get me wrong, I have fun. I have to take breaks. One of the things I learned this past year is I have to take breaks. I have to step away. I have to give myself time to recuperate. I need to smile. I need to laugh. I need to do these things. I've been serious for so long. I've been pushing for so long. I've been fighting for so long. I was killing myself, literally. So I've learned that. But what I'm talking about is I'm going to spend some time in the day reading. Now, I'm going to read a minimum of 20 pages a day. Minimum. I read 2 books a week on average. Now, that fluctuates depending on if it's a time when I'm actually writing a book that may go down to 1 book a week for a while, but I'm going to make up for it. And it's about commitment. How committed are you to it? The problem is Most people aren't going to be committed to it. It's not exciting enough. It's not fun enough. If I'm not a fan of reading, then I want to do it. You know, for the reader, it's great. But what if I'm not a man? You got to become someone who's consumed. If you don't want to read it, go find somebody who's teaching something real on YouTube. Do what you're doing now. Find somebody who's talking about something that matters to you on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, but you need to be consuming things that add to you instead of consuming things that attack, tear you down, uh, build on your doubt. You control that. You're in absolute control what comes through your gates. There are times where there are things that need to be dealt with, but there are moments where they are not allowed in my space, because there's got to be a time and space where I allow myself to feel peace, feel whole, feel happy, feel joy, regardless of what's going on in my life. It got to be this time where my circumstances aren't dictating how I feel. You've got to get to that place. On that note, look, I'm going to get ready to get out of here. I really, truly hope that you are blessed. This time I'm leaving for real. As I always say, I live my life on full so that when I leave this place, I die on E. That's my challenge to you. Live on full and leave this place on E, meaning you've given this life everything you have. You're not taking anything to the grave with you. That's the way you want to live. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys have an unbelievable day. Smile a lot. That's something that I'm working on too, is smiling more. Smile a lot and love hard. Love hard. On that note, I'm out of here. Hey, Tezzy, um, love hard. You get this life once, and it's short. You'll look up, man. I'm like, I just spent 10 years of my life, and you're looking at it going like, wow, that's 10 gone. What will you leave behind? What legacy what will people say about you after you're gone? That's your legacy. Will it speak of you? Some people won't be talking about you a year after you're gone because you didn't do nothing while you were here, but whine, complain, and talk about how hard life is, or just sit back and coast through life and hope nothing bad happens to you. But the people who decide that I'm gonna leave my imprint, that I am not going to leave this life having not touched it in a way that people know who I am. People remember what I've done. I don't want the accolades. In Michael Blanchard, I mentioned him earlier, Dr. Michael Blanchard. We've had conversations over the years. We've been knowing each other now for well over 10 years. And he would always tell me, Doc, my fear is that people will not know the massive impact that you are making until you're gone. And my response to him was, I'm okay with that. See, the first half of my life was about me. It was about what I could drive, where I could live, what I could do. Look at me. I came out the hood. Look at me. And I was miserable. I was in that big house with those cars in the driveway and everybody singing my praise. And I was up pacing the floor at 3 o'clock in the morning, every freaking morning. And I couldn't figure it out. Everything I ever said I wanted, I had. And I couldn't figure it out. And I sat down and I talked to somebody, a spiritual advisor that I trusted. He said, you're not in your purpose. Those things will never fill that void. He said, it's a God void in your heart. The only thing can fill it is purpose. So the second half of my life became about my legacy. What am I leaving behind? That goes with wealth in assets and money, but it also goes in wealth and love, wealth in knowledge, wealth and impact. Your legacy is what speaks of you after you're gone. On that note, I'm out of here. You guys, I love you. You have an unbelievable day, and we'll chat soon.